Welcome to my teaching learning session. We are continuing with industrial and organizational psychology with me for BA courses. I am Sonal Singh Panwar. Hello everyone. Now let's continue with process theories of motivation of organizational psychology. Knowing that organizational psychology is also leading to a huge number of psychologists which are getting into understanding them in terms of their motivation, in terms of their work performance, impact on their work performance from various areas and factors. So let's continue with process theories of motivation. The last time that we did was Vroom's expectancy theory, which was equally the process theory. So what are process theory to begin and give a revision of? These are those theory that focuses on your conscious human decision processes as an explanation of motivation. So they focus on how we decide on things for motivation. Also, the process theories are concerned with determining how individual behavior is energized, how we can increase it, how can we increase the way and direct them into a self-directed, goal-directed cognitive process so that they are motivated to perform better. Also, process theories are based on the early cognitive theories that we've had. The cognitive theories that spoke about, that speaks about how cognition at every stages of life differs. These theories are actually depending upon that. Also, process theory provides an opportunity to understand thought processes that influences behavior. So it also focuses on how your thinking, reasoning, problem solving impacts on your motivation, and that motivation indirectly, directly impacts on your influences on your human behavior. That could be activity, your performance, your ways of being in an organization. It also explains how workers select behavioral actions to meet their needs and determines their choice. So it's also looking forward to that you as workers in an organization, how are you going to make the behavioral choice meet your needs? How are you going to look forward for an appraisal? How would you look forward to move ahead or move ahead in a hierarchy in your organization system? So let's go ahead with the next process theory that we have today, which is equity theory. Equity theory is the term equity that we talk about, which is like not equality. Equality is providing everybody with the same platter. That's not what we want. Equity is providing what is fair to a group. So let's take an example. When we come to an organization, you should know male favoring factors should be different from female favoring factors, or the kind of appraisals that we give to males should be very different to the kind that we give to females. That's called equity. Equality would be giving everybody, let's take an example on a platter of three things. We give three things to group A, three things to group B, three things to group C. That is equality of quantity, which is giving everybody what is required in an equal amount. Equity is fairly distributing and compensating people as per their needs and their attributes. So, this theory of motivation suggests that employees' motivation depends on their perception of how fair is the compensation and treatment for their work input. So, this is going to tell that how workers are actually feeling, how are we compensated? Are we actually compensated in terms of the salary pay, in terms of the leaves, in terms of the way that we are treated in an organization? Is it very fairly done or not according to their job profile, according to what the number of years they've been working, etc. Equity theory also states that the employees perceive what they get from a job situation, which is outcome, in comparison to the input that they give. I feel this is something that we all look forward to. The amount of input that you're putting in and the amount of output that you're getting out. So we're always looking forward to that comparison, that are we actually getting the same amount? So I'm sure everybody who goes for a interview, a job interview, and your HR tells you these things are in your job profile, and this is the kind of salary that you're going to get. What do we feel? Our input is so high. We are incorporating ourselves in every aspect of our job profile, but the output does not justify or suggest the same. So then the comparison of the inputs and output ratios, or the input output ratios with others, which is in comparison to the others or in comparison to your input and output, we estimate and perceive how fair is our compensation. That's what equity theory is all about. Also, equity theory of motivation describes relationship between employees' perception of how fairly they are being treated and he's being treated, and how hard he is motivated to work. And this was given by J. Stacey Adams, and which was developed who developed the equity theory. There are two types of inequity. So there are two times that an employer might feel that there is inequity in relationship to their work input. One is under reward, and the other is over reward. So under reward motivation reward would be rewards when a person believes that he's not getting the same effort as much he's putting with than another person. So let's take an example: the desk of work is shared by four people, and out of them, two feels that we are not paid equally as in comparison to the others who are doing the same kind of work. So that is something that we refer to as under reward motivation. Then yet the same reward puts in the same effort in as another for a lesser reward. So when we talk about, when you compare at least your work alone and then you compare your work with the other people, so that is an under reward thing, when you feel that I'm not getting the same amount the others are, and I think I'm giving too much of effort and I'm not receiving the right amount. So that is the under reward motivation that we have. Then we speak about something which is over reward. A person will feel that his efforts to rewards ratio is higher in comparison to the other person. So that's like that's like a happy situation when you feel that he is the person is getting more when he's putting in his efforts in comparison to the other people. Also, at the same time, it could be an individual comparison that I'm getting more reward in relationship to what efforts that I'm putting in. So we are comparing in both the over reward and the under reward, both things. One in comparison to the other people, and one in comparison to you yourself. So you are comparing your own efforts with them. Now, let's understand more about this theory. This theory also suggests us that there are four possible referent for comparison. So there are four different ways that we can compare ourselves, either to look forward to equity or look forward to inequity. So speaking of the self inside, we see that there is a comparison where people do self inside, which is themselves inside. The employee compares his experiences in present situation with the experiences of those holding a similar position in the same organization. So this is self inside. You are comparing your achievement with the similar position people, with like for example, there are two managers that we have. Both the manager one compares his efforts and his position with the other manager, same position. So that's a self inside. Self outside is the employee compares his experience in the present position with the experience of those holding a similar position in another organization, which is self outside. You are comparing your own efforts with people working like as a manager in some another company. That's what I feel. Another comparison tends to happen far more often, because in self inside comparison tends to nullify with time when they get to know, okay, everyone's getting the same amount of task, same amount of effort that they're putting in, and the same amount of money that they get out. But when we start comparing it from self outside with organization outside, I feel that's the time we either experience an over reward inequity or an under reward inequity. When we compare, okay, I'm a manager here and he's a manager there, similar job profile, but why is he paid so by that company? So it could be a bigger brand name, it could be their policies, etc. Then there is other insight. The employee compares his experience in the present position with the experience of another individual or group of individuals holding a different position belonging to the same organization. So probably you compare yourself with a junior manager, okay, and you're a senior and you're a manager, and then later probably you compare yourself with a senior manager. So it's other inside, that means not the same position but the same company. So you tend to compare your levels of equities there. Then there is other outside. Other outside is you tend to compare your position, your experiences of the position that you're holding with another group of individuals, and individuals holding position, another position in other organizations. So you holding a manager position and you comparing a junior manager somewhere else, and you feel, oh my god, we both get the same pay. So as a manager, I'm probably being underpaid over here. So that's something that we call as other outside. So these obviously are some comparison situation which I feel do lead to difficulties in people's mind when they're working for their firms and their organization. That are we actually getting a fair composition? Are we really getting a compensation which is really fair according to our efforts that's put in? See, a sense of comparison when staying in company is very normal. So if people are doing so, remember this inequity does suggest that if you're comparing your efforts, if you're comparing your compensation with people, it's not something which is incorrect. It is not something that is wrong. It's not that you are doing something which is really wrong. These are part and parcel of an organization when we talk about equity. That's how people come into your organization through comparisons of other outside, and that's how people leave and you look forward to other employees in your company. Then what do we do to reduce inequity in various forms? So see, we always know that to get that balance, that people do feel that everyone is the same, not everything is something which is causing difficulty, and there should not be a sense of inequity all the time. We need to look forward to reduce this inequity in various ways. So what are the different ways that we reduce these inequity? See, changing one's perception is very important. I feel at times as workers, a person may believe a co-worker is doing more, and there's a lot of difficulty that they are facing, and they're receiving in the same position, they receive the same amount, and probably their amount of input is higher. So this perception should be changed. So when we talk about this perception that we talk about, they need to know that all are same in an organization. Everyone is looking forward to the same goal, which is an organization working together, achieving together, being together. So that thought needs to be changed. So until you don't think of your company as a good company, you don't think yourself as a good employee, I feel we never can, do something which makes us experience equity. So inequity needs to be experienced in a way that you tell yourself that you need to change your perception. Comparisons needn't be done. What you get in your company is something which is good. And if you really want something, ask for an appraisal, speak to your people rather than comparison, feeling that I am lesser or I'm getting lesser. The next is leave the field. These are one of the most simple things that you do. That's what we were mentioning in the beginning. So a person might think I need to avoid inequity. I leave the organization. I cannot survive myself with comparing too much. So what do? I leave the company, look forward to another job, and look forward to a job in another department in my own company. And I hold two profiles and I get more compensation. Right? That's probably how people compensate a lot of time, feeling that I like the organization, but I'm experiencing a lot of inequity. I'm not liking what I'm getting. So they hold up two profiles. And there could be times that you want to leave the organization. You quit the job, move to another with whatever that you've been comparing. So you're comparing hold is something that makes you move. Now, the reason that I removed the images, this also tells us, some level of inequity that happens in terms of rewards. So what are inequitable rewards? What do they look like? When you get a reward which is something which is not capable, you feel dissatisfied, you feel reduced output, you end up feeling neglected, and you feel, I don't know, I probably don't want to do this. So that's like reduced output. Then departure from the organization is quitting the job. Imagine if you're getting an equitable reward. So we're comparing every situation. Equitable is satisfying rewards. You continue the same level of output, you put in the same amount of effort, you come with more creative ideas, more new things in your mind. And for example, if you are getting something which is more than the equitable reward, I feel sometimes this is not mentioned. Sometimes people work harder. They work harder, they go beyond the limits, they work extra miles, they stay in the organization to support other people. And at times, what happens is people get lethargic. When they're getting too much of what needs to be given to them, there are times that they take it for granted, and they reduce, the presence, their presence. They just keep continuing the monotonous set of routine that they go on with. So there could be both the possible sides that I mentioned. Now, we go back to how to reduce inequity. Coming back to this, there are many ways. Change the input. A person might reduce his effort or probably increase his effort so that he gets more amount of compensation. Change the output, which is a person may try to change his rewards, such as asking for a raise or making an unauthorized use of company resources, which is not exactly correct. But some people do not do an illegal stuff or unauthorized use. They start getting they start making their smaller needs compensated in the workplace. Like I've seen this at many places in almost the organization. People taking something which is there in their work organization to their house or to their for their kids or for their friends of another company so that that supports. So, which is actually an unauthorized use of your company resources. You should not be taking anything from the company outside. So, that's like changing the output. Then change the comparison with others' input, which is change the comparison with others' inputs. So, you may change the behavior of the reference. So, you start comparing yourself with somebody else rather than the person that you're comparing it in the first go. Then change the comparison with others' output, which is the reference output that you're asking, perhaps by asking the boss to stop giving favorable treatment to somebody else. And you start saying, so please start treating us normal, like start treating us alike. So that's like to control your outcome, you do that. Then change the comparison, other, which is a person experiencing the equity may change the reference person and compare him or herself to a different person to access equity. So, how is this happening? What do we do? Change the comparison other, we change the person, change the reference of output, we start making changes in what we are getting in hand. And change the comparison of others' input is changing the amount of inputs the two people are giving. So, you probably now put in something different so that you get something different. So, that's like something we can do to reduce inequity. Now, what are the managerial, implications of inequity? Where do we see this getting applied? And if we apply it in an organization and industry, if you students are studying this, you should know if you apply this somewhere. Like if you're applying it in an organization, will it be fruitful? Yes, we can actually avoid underpayment. Companies usually can save their employees, reduce the employee salaries, may find employees respond in a different way to settle scores. So avoiding underpayment, avoiding overpayment, make sure that everybody receives what is required as per their profile. So that that temporary inequity and whenever there is somebody being overpaid, always remember there is someone being underpaid. Until we do not have a level of equity, there is someone who's paid more and the other is paid less. So overpaying one employee means that you're underpaying the other employee. So make sure that you give something to somebody if they deserve. Then is being open and honest with employees, telling them the actual situation of the company, telling them how do you distribute the hierarchy in your company and how do you work forward. So that finished with something which is an equity theory. I feel equity theory is something which is more relatable and imagine, something which you can relate to yourself. Imagine and you can put through. If you're working in an organization or if you wish to, you can apply it far more quicker than any other. Even when we talk about Bloom's expectancy theory, that's a little mechanical. This is very applicable. Now let's move to another theory, which is goal setting theories. Goal setting theories was given by Locke and Latham in 1990, and it's primarily it's a quite a recent theory. I feel 1990 it's quite a recent theory in comparison to the other theories which are being made in 1960s and 70s. So it posits, which is it states that people will be motivated to the extent to which they accept specific challenging goals and receive a feedback that indicates their progress towards goal achievement. So he suggested that people will be motivated only to an extent they they accept a specific challenging goal and they take the feedback, use that feedback to move towards a goal. So the basic components of goal setting theory is goal acceptance is required, which is effective goals needs to be accepted by employees. Goals are not personally accepted, but at a level of capacity to guide the behavior. So whatever goal of the company that is being set, the individuals should accept it as something that needs to be done. So that they're driven towards the organization's achievement. Communicating the purpose and necessity of the goal ensures greater commitment to goal, which is very true. The more precise, the more specific, and the more clear the goal is given by the company, the better is going to be the achievement. Specificity, as I said, clear, measurable, quantified. Challenging goals are important. See, when we talk about threat, harm, and challenge, harm and threat are something which is negative. It's a negative appraisal that we have. Challenge is a very positive appraisal. Why do I state it as a positive appraisal? See, challenging goals are difficult, but they're not impossible. Plus, they have so much that can make you learn while the journey that you're achieving it and the journey that you're taking. So they cause people to raise their intensity and persistence of work effort. They will also make you achieve it, and there was going to be a feeling of self-actualization. So challenging goals make you reach to an upper level in your own potential. So let's take an example. You've got a project where probably there's a lot of data collection that you need to do with the public, and you have a number which needs to be taken in a specific North Indian side, or probably a north central, in a central side of our country. What do? You need to complete a 500 block of data. Imagine, this is difficult, but it is challenging. In a month of probably in a month of two, it is very difficult. Taking feedback, speaking to people. There's going to be a lot of negligence also in that, where you have to start picking up more data. So this is challenging, but once it gets completed, the amount of potential raise that you get, you feel that this was a part that I was able to do. This is allowing me to understand that this is a part of my capacity and my potential. So completion of these goals really put you to a higher stand of yourself. Then comes the feedback after challenge. So feedback is any information which is received after the consequences of your behavior. It is the central of goal setting because it communicates how have you done and how appropriate your behaviors and achievement has been in a particular situation. So an effective feedback should be what? Specific, relevant to the topic, timely, it should be credible. See, there are times that we give feedback which are utterly harsh, which are really disappointing. So we should give such feedbacks that actually tells you where you're going wrong, but at the same time motivates you to correct yourself. And so this is how feedback should be in terms of goal achievement, and it should be sufficiently frequent also. You should not end up giving feedbacks in like 6 months once, telling them okay, this was fine, and the feedback is also very irrelevant, not very specific, and not very credible. Credible is the strength, the amount that you're putting in. You need to be very careful with feedbacks. So these were some of the essential features of goal achievement theory, which stated that people will be motivated to the extent in an organization in the way that they get specific and challenging feedback and receive challenging goals and receive a feedback. So with this, accept your goals, communicate properly. Goals should be specific, and they should be challenging, and the feedback should be very clear, very precise, very credible. Now, moving. This is the goal setting theory by Lantham and Locke. See the five principle: clarity, challenge, commitment, feedback, and complexity. Complexity is that the goals need to be achievable. They should be good. There should be something that you look forward to, not something which is very simple, easy, and familiar. You've seen it before. So once you've seen a same goal coming to you again and again, your work gets monotonous. You will not raise your potential, and there is no self actualization. That's why complexity is important as the five principles of Locke and Lantham's goal setting theory. Now, let's move ahead with the managerial, which is managerial implication of goal setting theory. Managerial implication, again, how do you apply these things when you are working as an organizational psychologist, and how you can have a superior performance and derive superior performance out of the employees. So first is increasing one's persistence of effort. So how do we promote good, like goal setting? How will it promote good performance? It will increase one's persistence of effort, regulating one's effort towards effective work behaviors, which is, you should relate one's effort with an effective goal, work behaviors, directing one's attention to the role that has been assigned to you and the task that has been assigned to you, and encouraging the development of goal attainment strategies or action plans. So make sure that you encourage the development of, development of goal attainment strategies. Make sure you tell them to achieve a goal, you need to have a plan of action. A POA is important. So this will not only make them value the goal, the goal achievement and setting up of the goal, but it will also make the journey very clear. It will make the journey very specific and very thoughtful. This also implies the managerial skills are implies that the manager must assign specific challenging goals. This is like a core thing of that we've studied right now, that your goal should be challenging, it should be specific. Make sure that workers truly accept your organization goals. So if there are somebody who feels that this is not something that I do, this is not my work, why are they providing me this? That needs to be communicated well. So that needs to be done. A systematic way of goal setting is the way that a management by objective program, and management by objective, which is MBO, emphasizes upon setting up a goal in a particular manner that are tangible, verifiable, and measurable. So something that can be verified, any goals, you should provide such goals to the management by objective are those things, those kinds of goals which are actually measurable. They can be verified also, that will they lead to a result, and they should be tangible in nature. Also, it emphasizes the four features and aspects, like what are the other ways that we can use goal setting theory. Goal specificity should be something which should be practiced. Participation in decision making, which is make sure that you involve your employees in goal setting. I feel this is one of the best ways. Having your employees being a part of a lot of decision making in the company not only adds value to the decisions that you're making in the company, and having diverse ideas and having creative ideas, innovative ideas, but also it provides word to your employees of being solely being a part of the organization, so that we feeling that we have as an in group just strengthens way too much. So an explicit time period and performance feedback should be a must. So what do we practice if we are using the goal setting theory in an organization? Make sure that the goals and the project that are being provided to your employees are worthy. So when we say worthy, that means they should be measurable, quantifiable. They should be, in a way that are they can be attained. They should be complex and not very simple and familiar all the time. It should always be challenging and provide a very credible, accurate feedback to your employees. Involve your employees in decision making. Employees your employee, sorry, encourage your employees in decision making, like make them a part of it. Also get your employees being a part of a lot of other decision making in the company. So these are like one of the most relatable, usable ways that you can use goal setting theory in organizational psychology. Let's move ahead to another theory which is called a reinforcement theory of motivation. I can go back. You all can go back to my other, continuation of other components that we did of general psychology and everything. There was something that we did on learning. This is a complete, application of learning principles. This theory, motivation. You'll get back. You'll understand because there is B.F. Skinner. We talk about conditioning here again. So reinforcement theory seeks to explain what type of consequence motivate people to work. So it's like what things after your behavior will encourage you to do your task. So it's like what type of consequences motivate different people to work. Traditionally, it can be traced to work of this can be obviously traced by the work of B.F. Skinner. The concept of reinforcement, the concept of rewarding came from his conditioning called instrumental conditioning. That was B.F. Skinner, and it posits that behavior depends on its consequence. So I believe B.F. Skinner was always of an idea that you can change your behaviors on the basis of the consequences that you provide. So what are the consequences that you provide? The rewards. It could be a punishment also. And so the kind of rewards that you provide after the behavior. Now, behavior that is accompanied by a favorable consequence is more likely to be continued, while a behavior that is being followed by an unfavorable consequence, which will not be repeated. It's as simple. If you reward a child for getting amazing marks, let's say child has scored a 95 out of 100, and you reward the child for something that he really needed all through. So remember that 95 might be attained again because he feels that I've been rewarded. Now, the unfavorable consequence would be if a child gets a 95, he gets nothing, no greater feedback on his answer sheets. He might feel that this goal achievement and this result was not very important. You might not be sure that will he get it again? Will he repeat the same results again or not? We really cannot be sure now. So that's how favorable and unfavorable consequence can change your behavior. Favorable consequence will make sure that that same good behavior keeps coming again and again, and the unfavorable, we doubt if it's going to be repeated or not. Now, what is this theory completely based on? This theory is based on four methods of shaping your behavior: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, punishment, and extinction. I'll explain you what is positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is providing favorable consequence for after the behavior that is done. So that's like a stimulus. There is a response. Like stimulus is a project that you give to your employee. The employee completes that project and you give them a reward. So it's reward, something they really needed, or probably a stay weekend vacation they were looking forward with the family, and you just provide them that after the good result and the good work that they do. So that's something which is a positive reward that we have. Now, speaking of the negative reinforcement, see, negative reinforcement is not something that, like the term suggests, negative reinforcement. Remember, it's not going to reduce your your potential behavior, but it's a different way of getting to the potential behavior. So first one was stimulus, response, and reward. So that reward came after the response, which was the consequence, and you did the same behavior again because I got to stay with weekend vacation, which I was waiting for with the family after my project. So next time, if I perform better, I might get something that I'm looking forward to, a great appraisal. So that's how it will make you work always. Negative reinforcement is, it is achievement of the desired behavior by escaping the unpleasant stimuli. So you don't want to be like, you don't want to come in the the late people, the people who are always performing late, people who are always giving their task late. You don't want to be a part of it. So to escape that, you complete your task on time, you finish your task on time, and you make sure that you are being equally heard and thought over. So how do we do that? You escape the unpleasant. So unpleasant stimuli is what? Unpleasant stimuli is the fact that you are completing your task on time. And if you do not complete your task on time, your name will come in the defaulters list of employees. You don't want that. So escaping the defaulter list is the unpleasant stimuli. You want to escape that, and for that, you keep doing the response. You keep doing the response. So this also leads to a desired work. So to come in that desired work, you make sure that you avoid the defaulter list all the time. So that's a negative reinforcement, which is avoiding an unpleasant stimuli and giving the desired response time and again after avoiding the unpleasant stimuli. Then we have punishment. Punishment is something which is obviously a harsh consequence, an unfavorable consequence that will completely finish your. This is usually for negative behaviors and negative, like fining your employees for coming late, finding your employees for probably submitting projects late. So what you can do is employees that submit their project late, they will not get the monthly leaves that they have. So this is a punishment. So because there's a very unfavorable consequence after that, you do your work late, project late, submissions late. Extinction is, when you do not reward your employees. Let's take an example. The employee has done one achievement and one goal for the company in 2 months. Then he did another goal in another 3 months, which is 5 months, second goal achievement for the organization. By the seventh month, the employee again achieves for the company, again achieves something really amazing for the company. But the company forgets to reward. What will happen? Now the employee feels that I am not being rewarded. So what is happening? The reward date, favorable consequence has extincted. So it's not coming. So when it will not come, do you feel that the employee will keep doing the good work? No. There is going to be an extinction in his good behaviors because you are not providing them a favorable reinforcement or favorable reward or favorable consequence, which is the positive reinforcement. So once you stop the consequences which are favorable, there comes a time that the desired behavior extincts, which is it just finishes. So these are the major principles of this theory of shaping behavior: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, extinction, and punishment. So that completes with the reinforcement theory's introduction. So you can see, I'll show by the reinforcement theory. Let's understand how do we increase a good behavior and how will it decrease. So if you give a positive reinforcement, that will increase the behavior, and remove also a negative reinforcement from the environment will also something increase your behavior. What will decrease the behavior? Punishment. Positive punishment can decrease the behavior at times, and also negative punishment can decrease the behavior. So this is how we need to be careful that punishment of some kind, which is even positive, at times leads to removal of good behaviors and good achievement of tasks. Now, after the reinforcement introduction, let's move to its dimension. It says that the rewards, the reinforcement is providing favorable consequences to the behavior which is done by the employee. So that's reinforcement, which allows the repetition of desired behavior again and again, again and again, again and again. So what are the ways that we can provide the schedules of these rewards? How can we provide these favorable consequence? There are four ways. Fixed interval ratio. Fixed interval is reinforcement is given after uniform time. For example, salary being paid monthly. That's again a fixed interval. Every month on the fourth, on the fifth, on the first that you get the salary. Variable interval schedule is reinforcement is giving after varying time intervals, which is varying time intervals could be probably once you did a really great job, your appraisal is coming after 2 months. You did another project, your appraisal came after 1 month. So it's like varying time you reward the client. Now varying ratio is reinforcement given in an unpredictable number of responses, which is this is variable ratio. After that, you perform 4 times really well, you get a reward. After that, you perform 2 times, two activities, two good achievement, there is a reward. Now, 4 achievement, then there's a reward. 5 achievement, then there's a reward. There are no fixed ratios. Now, when we talk about the fixed ratio in comparison to this, fixed ratio is when you give reinforcement after fixed number of ratios, after every two good feedbacks. After every two good performance, you give a reward. Then after another two, you give a reward. Then after another two. So there's a ratio. Then after every two good achievement of your employees and showing off the employees' potential, you will reward them. So these are four ways in an organization that you can use favorable consequences for your organization employees and increase their capacity and potential, and so similarly they will also perform well and they will increase their effort towards you. What are the managerial implication of reinforcement theory? See, reinforcement concept can be applied in a management setting very easily. You can even modify it according to yourself, the OBMOD, which is organizational behavior modification. So identify critical behaviors of the employees, that everything that an employee does is not equally important in terms of the performance outcome. So you need to be very critical of the behaviors. You cannot end up rewarding everything. At times you feel that okay, every time that my employee comes with this activity done, I will reward him. So every time he does a task, you can't reward him. You need to be very critical. Are the task and the behavior done by my employee really worth appreciating? So you need to be very particular of the performance outcomes. Then develop baseline data. Baseline is it requires that the managers determines the number of times the identified behavior is occurring under the present condition. So it's like finding out the data that how many times is my employee doing this kind of behavior under these circumstances. Like I've seen a lot of employees under stress, they start doing their work very slowly. They get very slow because they're under stress. They're very anxious, and there are other set of employees that on the other end do what? Under anxiety and under pressure, they start performing well. So for them, that anxiety has worked as a very eustress. Eustress is a stress that makes you perform better, that makes you perform adequately. So this is like a baseline data that you should develop. Identify the behavioral consequence. It involves performing a functional analysis to identify the behavioral contingency or consequences of performance. It tells the manager the antecedent cues that emit behaviors and consequences that are accurately maintaining it. So this is something, having a complete chart of your behavioral consequences of your employees, that this is the way that when my employee works well under these conditions, and when we reward them like this, they perform even better. So this should be a charter of everyone, that what kind of behaviors that are giving and what kind of behaviors can be rewarded. So that's like a complete charter identifying the behavioral consequence. Then developed and implement an intervention strategy, which employs that start developing rewards for the right time, the right person, and the right kind of task. So you should not give the same rewards to everybody. Monotony is something that will make this reinforcement theory really miserable, and every employee might feel that we've all got the same thing. Oh God, we've all received the same amount of reward. There are no variations. So this is developing an intervention plan and strategies for your employees so that you know who should be given what. Then evaluate performance improvement, which is it requires that the observed behavioral change can be evaluated to ensure that the learning has taken place. So this is just to see that after giving the reward, after giving the behavioral positive behavioral consequence, did it really make a difference? Did your performance come in a stronger strength, or was it the same? So if you feel that the behavioral consequence did not change, you need to evaluate the person's performance and see that do we need to reduce the reward now. So evaluation of performance is important. That tells you that how is the performance, one after reward, two after reward, three after reward. Developing intervention strategy is important so that you actually quantify, qualify rewards kind, then identify the behavioral concepts, that like making a charter of your employees. That's a huge thing. So is developing data, baseline data, critical behaviors, which is identify when is the kind of behaviors that are actually needed to be rewarded. What are the kind of goal achievement that you should must reward. So these are something which should be employed. That's how we understand that rewarding employees in what condition, in what form is important through this theory, and what can keep them in your organization, make them perform better, do better in life. So that completes with something which is your reward motivation theory. Now let's understand what is was the coming to the end of the motivation, organizational motivation. Let's understand what was the concept of motivation in Indian perspective, and was it ever available? Yes, it was. The concept and the knowledge of motivation has been actually found in the Bhagavad Gita also and Vedas also. The New Vedic scholars who were very influenced by Buddhism and Jainism also mentioned that the task achievement and motivation are two things which are extremely connected. So your behavioral action are actually dependent upon upon the motivation, which is how driven you are to achieve that action. Also, a lot of religious books and records reflect that all human beings have desires. We all know that all of us are filled with needs, are filled with desires, and these desires are the one which drive us to complete a task. So, if these desires are sensitively rewarded, sensitively made better, that's how your motivation gets completed in an organization also. So, the more that we identify that this is your drive, this is something that you want to be completed, that's what we give you as an employee after a task achievement. Remember, see, you will be more motivated to perform again. So this is all coming from our Indian scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, and Vedas. It's all being there stating that we all have wishes and desires that makes us engage in a task and complete a task. And if that task is very well rewarded, very well specifically given feedback, it gets better with every time. So that's the Indian perspective of motivation and completes with the unit 3. Let's move to something which is like a movie. The major component motivation is actually intensity, persistence, and activation. So let's move to the unit 4 of BPCE 146 that we have, which is stress and well-being at a workplace. One of the most important thing now that I feel we should look forward to. Stress is an ongoing process of life. It is not embedded in situation, but it is a part. So stress can be defined as any type of change that causes physical, emotional, or psychological strain. It does. It does causes you physical strain. It does causes you emotional, where you overthink a lot. You start comparing yourself with people. You have mood swings, and obviously psychological strain when you're frustrated. There's so much of conflict within your mind. So stress is your body response to anything that requires attention. So according to Lazarus, stress arises when individuals perceive that they cannot adequately cope with the demands which are being made by the environment and that threatens their well-being. So threat is something that actually destroys the equilibrium of your body mind, and it demands things which are more out of your capacity, and it destroys the well-being. So this is something which was given by Lazarus in 1966 that we have. Now let's understand, knowing stress, there are different kinds of stress that we all achieve in different intensity. And there could be a possibility that there are times that people achieve only one kind of stress too much. So not all type of stress are harmful, you need to know. I just spoke about eustress purposely the last time, which is, eustress does provide us anxiety, which is a good amount of stress. So there are some positive stress and there are some negative stress. So the acute stress is something which is very short term of stress that can be either positive or could be more distressing. This type of stress can be the encounters day to day life, like the traffic jams, daily hassles, conflicts with employees. So that's something which is a very short lived thing, and it gets solved, it gets nullified at time with the passage of time. And then there is chronic stress. Chronic stress usually ends up being quite negative in nature. Why? Because chronic stress is never ending. It is a long stretch of stressful time, inescapable, and like stress of being, like example, being in a bad marriage, being in a bad relationship, or an extreme, a taxing job, an extremely taxing job, something that just wears you out completely. Chronic stress can stem from even traumatic experiences, horrible experiences at workplaces, childhood traumas also. A lot of people experience stress at workplace because a lot of they do not have proper capacities to support them at home. Probably their parents are not something that have paid attention to them when they were young, and that's how they always feel unattended to, and that's what they feel in their organization also. So that's how childhood trauma does impact and gives you a never ending stress, which is chronic stress. Then there is episodic acute stress, which is acute, short lived, coming with episode, which is acute stress that seem run rampant and beyond your way of life, creating a life and ongoing distress, which is we all every day experience something or the other that gives us conflicts, frustration. So that's something, an event that gave you stress gets over, you go on with life. There's another event that gives you stress now. So it's very short lived and very episodic, comes with experiences. Then we have eustress. That's a fun and exciting one. It is a positive type of stress that energizes you. So, it's always said a little bit of anxiety is always good for all of us. Why? Because it energizes the body get aroused. Let's take an example. Winters are so gloomy, so lethargic, and so such kind of weather that you just want to be bed stayed all the time, want to stay there and stay on your bed, feel lazy, do a work from home all the time. But if you get a project that makes you move, a project that makes you very anxious, but at the same time gives you, okay, if I achieve it, that's my potential. So that's like a eustress. It energizes you, gives you that slight anxiety, that diffuse apprehensive feeling that pushes you to go to your work most of the time. So that's like eustress. It is associated with the surge of adrenaline. You tend to experience happy hormones, endorphins, and epinephrine, and which is like skiing, meeting a deadline, like you completed something and submitted, and it's like, oh my god, and that happy hormone feeling that comes in. That's all something which is eustress. That's actually how we all look like under under deadline pressures, under completing job things, under bigger hold of things that we all feel like crushing ourselves, and even for students during examination stress. Now, coming to what could be some general causes of stress, then we'll obviously move to them in length, which is some factors that can cause you stress according to researchers. And work related stress is one of the most significant cause. We all know organization will have work related stress. Apart that, I'm just going towards stress which is apart work related. Marital unemployment could be a stress, health hazards in the family or to themselves, work pressure, extreme work pressure, lack of support in the organization, traumatic accidents or experiences, emotional trauma. Poor mental health is something that should be taken care of. Today, I feel 20 to 29% of work employees are having poor mental health, and they're avoiding it by work pressure. Ikigai always states, that Buddhism concept that you should always keep yourself preoccupied. But preoccupation at times, all the time, can lead to a poor mental health. Financial commitments can be very, it always keeps you under the box. You cannot move yourself because you have financial commitments. Perilous work condition, which is something which is miserable work conditions, and long working hours. Long working hours takes a toll on everybody. Working from 9 to 5 and then having an additional 2 hours, going back home for another, just for 11 hours just to stay, it could be horrible. It could be really, really taxing on an individual's body, mind, and obviously their cognitive functioning. So these were something apart that I spoke about work-related stress. See, this is a beautiful general model of stress process that I found. See, these are your stressors. Your stressors could be environmental, psychological, and social, which is coming from people's pressure on you. Psychological could be work overload. Environmental could be bad working condition, which leads to personality characteristics. Some people have good health, they're able to take care of environmental and psychological conditions. Some people have a good psychological mental well-being, so they surpass most of the stressors and they start using their own resources, like psychologically smart people having a high mental health and a very vibrant temperament. They will use their personal and social connections at their work, make sure they're always available to people. So this is what, how stressors and personality characteristics and use of resources can make you appraise better. If you are not able to take care of the various tasks that comes to you, if the task is very complex, you have a poor mental health, and you do not hold any new skills, you might feel emotionally suppressed. You might feel very depressed cognitively. I'm not able to think, creative thinking is not working. This way you will perform less. So you appraise stress behaviorally, psychologically, and cognitively, positive, negative, depending upon the stresses that you experience, how that stresses is taken care by your personality characteristic, and what kind of resources can also support the personality characteristics. So that finishes with a simple, and it's a beautiful model that tells you how your personality characteristic will appraise further depending on the kind of stresses and resources that you have. Now, let's move to in length of the other sources of stress. See, frustration is one of the biggest source at work areas. Whenever your goals are blocked and thwarted, it actually leads to stressful conditions. A wide range of environmental obstacles, both physical and social, internal factors in the form of personal limitation, biological conditions, and psychological barriers can lead to not meeting up of goal, and frustration is formed. So your frustration of your needs, your motives, your desires, your achievement. So, for example, Ravi expected his promotion, however, he's frustrated because he did not receive. That's a basic drive also, and a motive to achieve self-esteem. Then conflicts are also something of motives that leads to a lot of stress. Conflicts is incompatible compatible needs in front of you from which you have to choose. You have to decide. So it could be an approach, and avoidance conflicts. So some conflicts are something where are two favorable things. Should I pick up this task, or I you have two favorable tasks that you have been given. So task one, task two, you like both of them. So it's an approach. It's very positive. Such conflicts does cause you concern and difficulty, but very shortly. Then there is avoidance. You have been put in a long run task of 1 year, a project of 1 year, and at the same time, your number of leaves have been, you've been told either take this task which holds you here for a year, or we provide you another platform in the same organization at a lower degree. They both, and they don't compensate your salary pay, but they give you a lesser designation or lesser job profile. It's so difficult. Either you work on a project for 1 year where you cannot plan anything for yourself, or you go to something which is lesser for you in terms of value. Avoidance, both are negative. Then there is approach avoidance. One favorable, one unfavorable. You end up choosing the favorable. This is like the easier conflict, but there could be times where you have a little difficulty in choosing these also. Then there is double approach and double avoidance, which suggest a favorable condition having a favorable result, and then on the other side there is a same situation giving you a negative result. So same situation giving positive results and negative results. So that's also a double positive and negative. Then pressure is again a thing which causes us stress, which is internal pressure, your own demands from yourself that I must perform well. This actually puts not only I feel employees but students also under pressure. When students say that I have to perform this much, this is such a difficult thing when you pressurize yourself that I must do it. That irrationality does act as an internal pressure. Pressure can be external also from the environment, responsibility from other heads, obligation from other employees, etc. Internal pressures are caused by your own self, of maintaining a picture of yourself, an image of yourself, that I should be like this, I should always look like this. This puts a lot of pressure on you to be in a specific way all the time. So that finishes with the your stressors and your other sources of stress that we have. Now let's understand the consequences of stress. You need to know that once stress hits your body, mind, and psychologically you as an individual, it does give you impact. Physiologically also, emotionally also, and I feel in a work organization, productivity too is hampered. So when we speak about stress impacting your health, always remember distress can lead to physical symptoms that are first readily available to all of us, like recurrent headaches, elevated blood pressure, upset stomach, and pressure on the chest, burning sensation in the chest, sleeping or odd sleeping patterns. Either you're sleeping too much, once you get back home, you don't interact with people and you just go to sleep. There could be that you're all awake all night, just completing your work and taking a 5 hour or 4 hour of sleep. So research suggests that stress can also bring on or worsen certain condition and probably worsen your disease also. Stress can also become very harmful when people use wrong coping mechanism, getting addicted to alcohol, tobacco, drugs, and try to relieve your stress. People end up getting into experimental behaviors and try to get out of stress, creating an alternative virtual setup of mind that, okay, drinking alcohol just relaxes my body and I am able to have a good night's sleep. That really doesn't happen. You do not get a good night's sleep after having a glass of alcohol and indulging into anything which is drugs. It does have more impairing effects on your body. Drugs can have respiratory issues, it can lead to paralysis in the body, it can reduce your cognitive functioning. Drugs do reduce your cognitive functioning at a greater level in comparison to alcohol. Alcohol is something that can make you give a very alternate state of mind, but then cause other bodily diseases, which is elevated blood pressure, stomach upset, chest pains, etc. Stress that is left unchecked for a long duration of time. So people who feel, no, this is just a part of my thing, my BP is not rising, it's just normal. You never know, sudden heart, cardiac arrest, diabetes shooting up, obesity, body deformities, or body changing dimensions that are very odd in an odd way, which leads to obesity, can lead to binge eating, eating disorders, etc. Are the effects of stress on health. So we need to be very careful. We should make sure that any kind of stress coming from organization should be taken care of. That's why organization also has free health checkups. So that's like a incentive sort of thing that an organization provides us all. Then, apart health, there is an impact of stress on your performance and productivity. Stress can be beneficial. We started that there is a eustress that is beneficial, but there can also be disadvantage, especially when it comes down to your job productivity. So stress can have an impact on your physical and mental well-being, which further can reduce your strength to produce a goal. So mentally and physically, when you feel very low, too much of stress will not be able to energize you both emotionally and physically. There's a lack of focus because stress actually takes away the energy, makes you overthink on easy situation, makes you utilize energy in the wrong thing and you're not able to focus. There is obviously a reduced creativity when you're overthinking so much. When your body is already tired all the time, you experience a mental overload way before time. There is no space for innovation. Negative impacts of personality, people get irritant, they become very neurotic, they become very moody. It creates hindrances in their personality development, and they might snap at peers, misbehave with family, so which becomes a part of their personality. Also, quality of work reduces because you're fatigued, your mental health is low, you're always under that conflict, internal conflict, and tardiness when almost everyone in the company has few people occasionally and they're struggling with them. So this is something that we spoke on in terms of productivity, and that actually equally impacts your relationships. We start giving lesser time on relationships, we start going into lesser social gatherings, our connectivity, our resources reduces, which deprives us of energy and polite conversation, small talk in your organization, and reduces your productivity as a company as a whole. So this is the way stress impacts you. So make sure that we take care of our behavioral, emotional, and our social connect, and even our body and mind at the same strength. That completes with a little amount of effects of stress and effects on your relationship. Hope the Unit 4 continuation was good for all. And that completes with our session today with you with stress and effect of stress. Thank you.